I thought I'd do something a little different today. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm an old film school guy. I went to university to study cinema. And recently, I went back to the theaters. The first time I'd done it in quite a long time. Like a lot of people, I got out of the habit of going to the movies. But I did see Superman, the new Superman film, and I thought I would say something about it. You know, first, nowadays in everybody's review, they always say spoilers or whatever. But, really, if you look at all the classic reviewers, the Pauline Kael and, the Siskel and Ebert, who everybody knows, they never had to say spoilers because a review has nothing to do with discussing the logic of a plot or something like that. You can look at overall how a film works in its themes and overall its entertainment without having to uh, discuss the plot points and if it fits with the comic books. So what I'm going to do is talk about how entertaining this film was. So as we know, superhero films have a big reputation these days, and it's a bad reputation. Disney has it, the DC films for Warner Brothers have it as being underwhelming and not entertaining at all. Often kind of pushing certain messages, or it may just be that we see those messages being pushed because the entertainment from the value of the film is not there anymore. So obviously, this new Superman film is going to be a bold change, and you can see how they tried to boldly change it. All the Superman films with Christopher Reeves and the Superman Returns and the Henry Cavill films. Those were all the serious, noble, Christ-like Superman. And even in the Superman poster here, am I pointing the right way? No, this way. Um, it's hard to do this when you're on screen because everything's opposite. But even on the screen, you see here's a noble, Christ-like Superman. So they're referring to the old films in this poster. But in the movie, in this new Superman, the new Superman character is not like that at all. It's a completely different tone. It's a lighter, more entertaining tone. Superman is earnest. He's kind of a younger, enthusiastic guy. He's very kind and aw gee, aw shucks. He saves he flies in to save a squirrel from being stepped on by a giant creature, and it comes off as a breath of fresh air, I think, for the character and how he's portrayed. And you see a lot of people who don't like this film. They they're very locked into the classic cinema portrayal of Superman as this sometimes even brooding Christ-like figure that was sent here to somehow save mankind. And another big departure is that this new Superman, he's not overpowered. He's in real jeopardy the whole time. He's getting beat up in situations where they make it seem very obviously logical of why he's being overpowered, and that sense of jeopardy adds a lot to the story. And the film is nonstop story and action. It's a very much a James Gunn thing. I thought of that when I saw the trailers, which are really not very good. They don't really give you an idea of what the actual film is about, except it's a James Gunn thing because you've got a lot of quirky characters you would not think would fit in in a film like like when he did in Guardians of the Galaxy. You have the raccoon Rocket, was it Rocket Raccoon, and you have the Groot. And before you saw the movie, you'd think, how could you make these seem like real live characters? Or in the Suicide Squad, he took all these quirky Silver Age DC characters like the Polka Dot Man, and you think, well, how could you create a real life character on screen that seems too silly? But he does that. He's a specialist at doing that, and he certainly does it in this film, bringing in a whole variety of quirky characters. Um, and to this, I'm generally very positive about the film, but certainly the film does fall into Martin Scorsese's uh, realm when his comments talking about Marvel movies not being real cinema. This film has such a rapid fire pace. It's so much CGI. It's essentially, CGI is animation. It's kind of animated, realistic animation, and all you could kind of think back and compare it to other films, the old slow paced scenes with a big action scene at the end of the film. It is not like that at all. It's action, action all the way through. And, the characters are very broad stroke characters, like the leader of the fictional country that Superman intervenes in their dispute. And even they have an invasion where the country's invading another country, and they have this desert area with a bunch of kind of peasants on one side and the soldiers on the other. It's all done in very broad strokes, which I think ultimately works because it is like the way you would illustrate it in a comic book. It's not trying too hard to bring all of these elements into the real world, because cinema is live action and thus it has to be realistic. That's kind of a false assumption, and this film does not fall into that trap. I have a bunch of notes here. I it is so rapidly paced that in retrospect we might look at this not as a movie, but because it is a new kind of movie, it's rapid-paced social media almost in the way it reminded me of when I'm scrolling through TikTok or something. But ultimately, I think it is entertaining, and it's filled with a lot of rapid-fire DC lore. And when you combine all these elements together, the aw shucks goodness of Superman, the whole structure of the film, Corn Sweat. Corn Sweat. What a name to have! The guy who plays Superman, he is perfect. He's fantastic. Lois is perfect. Not too beautiful. They have good chemistry together. It's they're the right characters. They're the right people to play these. Again, it didn't really come off in the trailers, but once you see it in the film, it works. The Justice Gang, led by the Green Lantern, very fun. A lot of the comedy quips don't work for the characters, for Superman, for the Justice Gang characters, for Mr. Terrific. They kind of fall flat in the same way they fell flat in the movie The Suicide Squad. That's the second Suicide Squad film that James Gunn made. But it adds a little charm, even though a lot of the overt attempts at comedy aren't really funny. They don't work. And I have to mention that in this film there's no long origin story at the beginning, and it just starts out that well, maybe this is a spoiler, but a lot of the things that we assume that a Superman film is about are just not in there, but it all still works. And ultimately, there's a lot of talk online about woke political content in movies, challenging the audience and saying that they're sexist or racist in some way if they don't like it through the media. And that was a very strange marketing equation for very large companies. And I think we're seeing many films now moving away from that. A lot of the big blockbuster films that came out in the past few years were very full of that messaging, and they were not entertaining, and it destroyed the goodwill that the public had for the entertainment industry. So this film, the Superman film, certainly does have messages and themes, and maybe someone could work it around to say there's some woke things in it. But that's fine, because the film is entertaining first. and it's true to the characters it's portraying, and it's not challenging the audience not to like it or else. So if you do that, you can load your film with any other little messages in the back, as long as it's entertaining. And that's a message I think Hollywood has to relearn. So to sum it up, I think it's a breath of fresh air for superheroes movies. Who knows if it can succeed? I don't really think there's a superhero fatigue really in those terms. It's because the films got bad. There was a reputation for superhero films for not being entertaining. And if not anything else, even if it doesn't succeed, I think James Gunn has broken all this trend and made an entertaining superhero film again. That's my review of Superman. Let me know what you think, and put a comment in. I'd love to get this channel going, and talk to you next time.